Welcome to the Intentional Encourager podcast, where each episode brings you compelling conversations and stories designed to entertain, enlighten, and encourage. And now here's your host, Brian Sexton.
And welcome into the Intentional Encourager podcast. I'm your host, Brian Sexton. Thank you for joining us again today. And again, this is a part of our Intentional Encouragement Roundtable series. And I have the co-host of the Positivity Chat. You can find that on LinkedIn every week. Karen Markle and Steve Sullivan are bringing people from all over the world together to have these positivity chats. But we're going to have a positivity chat here inside the Intentional Encourager podcast. Karen, Steve, welcome to the Intentional Encourager podcast.
Thank you,
Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. It's a real honor and treat to be here.
Well, you both have been on individually, and both of you shared such powerful stories that I wanted us to come together collectively and talk about positivity inside of intentional encouragement. So, Karen, I want to start with you. Ladies first, Steve, obviously.
Good man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's years of practice being married to my wife. But Karen, let me start here with you. You and Steve have the idea to do the positivity chats. I want to ask you, and Steve, same question will go with you for you when Karen gets done. What has been the most surprising thing that has come from these chats that you've done and you've gone, I sure didn't see that coming?
Sure. Honestly, Brian, that's an excellent question. And I think the easiest way for me to answer that is the biggest surprise is the fact that we're still hosting these positivity chats. And what do I mean by that? Steve and I came together earlier this year and we had a conversation. We were talking about the sea of negativity that was around us everywhere. And there was a great need for there to be some type of positive encouragement for people along the way. Just these conversations where everyday people can come together and talk about just the positive things that are happening in their lives. And so we just thought we'll just come together on a Zoom call. He and I were so positive with one another, but we'll invite others to come on there and it'll be a one-time event. And here we are in October. We started these chats, I think, in June. And we are still going. People are asking us, Karen, Steve, when's the next positivity chat? So that, to me, has been the biggest surprise, that people actually like and love and want to be a part of what we're doing.
Steve, what about you? What's been the biggest surprise for you around these positivity chats that you have seen? You've had those aha moments. We may have lost Steve temporarily.
I think that impacted me the most.
Yeah, we may have lost Steve temporarily. And the good thing about it is that Karen and I are still here.
Yes.
And so this is what happens in a podcast. People ask me, they say, do you edit these podcasts? I'm like, not much. I want people to see the real spontaneity. We'll get Steve back here in just a minute. Karen, that gives us an opportunity for you and I to chat more around the positivity chats.
Yes.
When you, and I love what you said there, because the sea of negativity, that's the reason that I'm doing the Intentional Encourager podcast, because I tell people, I say, I saw so much expertise and not enough encouragement, that's what prompted me to want to do the Intentional Encourager podcast. Mm-hmm. When you think about what was your initial thought when you and Steve first talked about this? What was your initial thought of the idea or the framework around the positivity chat?
Well, again, it was never a thought in the beginning that this would be an ongoing conversation. It was just a one-time kind of event. And even with that, I just thought, maybe we might get a couple of people that might want to join us, and maybe we won't. Maybe it'll end up just being Steve and I, and we'll just be talking. And so in the beginning, we didn't have a lot of people that joined on, but I think within 3 weeks' time, we started getting some attention from outsiders. And when I say outsiders, I mean people that didn't join the call the first 2 times that we started. And they came on and they were like, wow, this is kind of interesting what you're doing, because it's not really, it's kind of like you're bringing together a group of professionals to a networking event, and yet you're not networking, because we don't ever talk about sales. We don't talk about business. We just talk about things that are important to one another. And it's been really beautiful to watch the, if I could use the word evolution, as what we are building organically is growing and changing and developing into something far deeper than I'm pretty sure either Steve or myself could have imagined. And all along the way, we have felt God's hand on what we're doing, which is why we're not stopping, at least not yet.
Well, here's the thing too, Karen. What's happening is, and I was sharing with a friend of mine this week, there is a shift that is happening on LinkedIn. I feel it. It's a very definite shift that people that have traditionally used the LinkedIn platform to grow business, to make contacts, things like that. And those are still great ways to network for jobs and things like that.
Yes.
And I'm not minimizing that at all. LinkedIn is a great way for us. That's our primary way to distribute the Intentional Encourager podcast, is over LinkedIn, and let people know, the great guests that we have every week that decide to give us their time, like you and Steve.
Yes.
But what I'll say, Karen, is the shift that I'm seeing is a shift around people seeking out other people to help, to lift, to encourage,
yes,
to use that platform in a professional way to be around other like-minded people. Because, Karen, here's what I see on social media. I see on Twitter, I see just vileness and people just being nasty and mean. Instagram and Snapchat are younger folks, and it's more like, well, look at me, look at what I'm doing.
Yes.
Facebook's a place to air your drama or tell people where you went on vacation or something like that. And there's really not a place for professionals to connect other than LinkedIn. And that's where I'm seeing that shift of more and more professional people just longing to connect with other like-minded professional people. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Oh, absolutely. And that is a great point. Steve and I have this mantra that we kind of share amongst ourselves, and it's professional people. We're a place where professional people or professionals can come to just be people. Because what we talk about are things that are important to everyone pretty much as you're going through your life. And while you can come to these positivity chats with your professional hat on and lean in and listen to the dialogue, the conversation, and maybe pick up some things that you want to take back to your team, which we love that component of it, you also can take your professional hat off at the door, come into the conversation, and just show up as you are and talk about whatever is important to you. And we have created this atmosphere of complete and total respect. Our goal is to try to encourage and allow everyone that comes to the conversation the opportunity to share their input on whatever the topic may be. And sometimes the topic that we start out with doesn't actually stay the same topic the whole way through. Usually it is, but sometimes it organically changes along the course of the conversation. And it's beautiful to see how everyone is leaning in to listen to whomever is speaking and sharing without judgment, because it's not that everyone always will agree with everything that's being shared in the conversation, but the amount of respect that we have there and the support, and it is empowering. And Steve and I keep hearing people say after the call, they feel so energized. And again, to me, those are telltale markings of the presence of the Lord working through the atmosphere.
Yes.
People feel safe to come in and open up and share about things that they might not feel comfortable sharing with their coworkers, but while they're sharing, they're also being given encouragement and suggestions and recommendations on how to navigate that space if it applies to the workplace. So it's a really beautiful thing.
Well, and Karen, this is what is so great about the positivity chats. And Steve, I want to get your thoughts around this as well too, is that the positivity chats are really a place for everyone to come, of all creeds, religions, origins, races. You guys have intentionally, Steve, and this is where I want to bring you in. You've been intentional about doing this. When you think about the level of diversity that is involved in the positivity chat, how do you just put your arms around that with the level of diversity that you and Karen have been able to attract?
I think it's largely because we've created a safe space for people to come together and share what's on their heart, to potentially interact in deeper ways that, leave them encouraged, leave them energized, feeling positive after the calls. And so, everybody wants to know that they're valued, that they can live with power and energy. And, that's what we're trying to do, is allow people to have that time to express themselves and leave encouraged and energized.
Steve, I'm going to ask you this follow-up question, and I'll also ask this to Karen. Was there a moment in a positivity chat that really caught you by surprise? And here's why I say that. When you were on the Intentional Encourager podcast and you shared your story with me, such a powerful story, I would highly recommend go back and listen to Steve's podcast as well as Karen's podcast. But you have such a powerful story yourself. When you have left a positivity chat, has there been a moment where you just said, wow, I wasn't expecting that?
I think there's probably have been several moments like that. We often, Karen and I talk leading into the chats about what kind of topic do we want to present coming into the conversation, and we'll present that at the beginning, and then the conversation can go anywhere. Sometimes we're expecting it to go a certain way, and somebody will speak up and say, hey, I'm really struggling because of this sickness, or because of this loss of death, or some other issue that is tied to the topic, but isn't something that I know Karen and I expected the conversation to go in, but those conversations often blossom into some of the best conversations as the group reaches out and supports the person who's open enough to share their heart and where they're at.
Karen, has there been a moment like for you that way? Can you share? Sorry. Sorry about that, folks. A little technical difficulty. Karen, can you share a moment like that with the positivity chat, where you just left it and you just said, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that something that powerful just happened?
Yeah, there's, like Steve mentioned, there has been several conversations that have really kind of blown me away at I would say, the depth of personal, intimate information that was willingly shared amongst the group. And, out of respect to the individual, I don't want to talk about what was shared, but I will say this much. It really kind of took my breath away how much they revealed in the conversation with people around the world that they've never actually met in person, But because we have created such a space of safety and love, encouragement, support, that in that moment, that they really felt like they could share that particular situation. And I think the reason why they brought it up was, as we were having our conversation on whatever the topic was, it tapped into that particular experience. And that's what prompted them to then share it with the group. And I'm pretty sure everybody on the call was kind of taken aback, but not in a bad way. We kind of felt honored that this person felt so safe to share something so deeply personal with the rest of the group. And it's kind of helped us to create and build this family-like atmosphere, that people know that no matter what they share, there's not going to be any condemnation, there's no judgment. It's just a lot of support, respect, and encouragement.
And I can remember,
yeah.
Brian, I can remember a case where somebody shared something related to work and a battle that they were going through. And then at a surprise to me, somebody else said, yeah, I'm going through the same thing. There was an ability to connect with each other on a level that you normally wouldn't do in a business environment, or maybe one-on-one on a Zoom call where you're talking about your services and how you can help each other and those kind of things.
Well, and Steve, you bring up a great point, and you transitioned very well to what I wanted to ask you, which is this. Was there ever a topic of conversation that you and Karen discussed beforehand where there was disagreement between you two, where you said, maybe Karen said, I would like to talk about this topic, and Steve, you might have said, I don't know, I'm not comfortable, or maybe Steve, you brought it. Because here's the thing, the reason I asked that question is sometimes there are things that are top of mind to us, and we think, I'd like to talk about that with somebody else. But then that other person goes, I'm not real comfortable going there. Was there ever that moment between you two where there was a topic that there was a little bit of pushback and maybe some reticence about bringing that topic to the positivity chat?
Well, I guess I would say one of the great things about Karen and I and working together is we're often on the same page. And so the few items that we've talked about to not bring before the group would be hot button items like, we really don't want to bring up politics. We generally avoid talking about religion, although people are free to share their faith.
I'm stunned you don't want to talk about religion or politics. Color me stunned. I mean, who wouldn't want to?
So yes, exactly. You end up going down a path that isn't encouraging sometime with those conversations. So those
I would add another one in there because you live in the Chicago area. So pizza, that might be a difficult topic for some people because, if you live in New York, or you live where I live in West Virginia, we just don't care here in West Virginia. Karen's in the Dallas area. Pizza might be another one. Religion, religion, politics, and pizza. We'll stay away from those.
Well, we also, I want to jump in. We also, like I mentioned before, we kind of stay away from talking about what we do as a living, as a profession. And it's not to say that people can't ever talk about work-related items as it relates to the topic, but we felt one of the ways to make it easier for people to feel comfortable with engaging in the conversation is to make an environment where they did not feel like they were going to be pressured to listen to a sales pitch at some point along the way. If they want to have that kind of conversation, they can obviously connect with the individuals offline, and we totally support that and we encourage that. And on rare occasions, we might give a shameless plug for one of of our guests that are on the call to it's not about pushing their business as much as it is about informing people about something great that they're doing.
So in other words, there would not be any product placement such as Germ-X hand sanitizer.
No. Karen Cooper is on our calls and she's got her bottle.
Yes, she has her subtle advertising of her own products that she keeps placed within her video screen without having to say anything.
That reminds me, I think it was Austin Powers. There was a scene where they had like different, like a Pepsi can and a Doritos bag, and had like this shameless product placement throughout the different scenes. Unfortunately, no advertisers yet have stepped up to sponsor the Intentional Encourager podcast. But if you have a popcorn company, maybe a soft drink company, I'm your guy. I like all those things. So,
All right.
an apparel company, I'll wear hoodies and things, so, but no, Steve, I want to go here just for a quick minute. When people think of positivity, okay, that could be construed as kind of a generic word. Where is the intention, do you feel, around the positivity chats? Because again, I'm not asking this I love the name, the positivity chats, anything positive. What is the intention, though, every week of the positivity chats?
Well, first and foremost, positivity in my book is a strength that some individuals have.
Totally agree.
Karen is one of those for sure, but Falguni shows up in these, she's got it. Helene shows up, she's got it. So very of us who've gone through the Gallup Strength Finder test have identified our strengths. And positivity is not one of my strengths, but it is one of Karen's strengths. And within that context, positivity is focusing on what is right. What can we do that will uplift others, that will move something forward? It's people who are positive. You're not going to catch them complaining, looking backwards. You're going to find them talking about, the excitement they have for what they're doing, what they intend to do. And, one of our goals and one of the reasons we named it Positivity Chat is because we started during all the riots and all the negativity that was going on in the world and on the news. And so it was like, hey, Karen, let's have a conversation where maybe we can uplift positive things. And that name has been there, stuck, so to speak. And a lot of people who come will tell us afterwards that they leave feeling positive.
Steve, I'm glad you brought that up. And Karen, I'm going to go to you here in just a minute, but I'm glad you brought that up. I don't understand a business that is seeing their numbers plummet like the news business and the media business. It's sales 101. You don't sell customers things they don't want. And you have hit on it, because I feel the same way. I feel like the news is not worth watching because everything seems to be a hit piece, or you don't know, they report something and then 2 days later there's a retraction because it was reported that it was not real at all. It was a manufactured piece. And so I don't understand a business that continues to operate in that norm when they don't understand how the market works and how it moves. Karen, when you think, and I love what Steve said there. That was brilliant, Steve. Karen, I'm going to pivot here to you around that. What do you come into every positivity chat? Do you have one goal in mind when you come into a positivity chat every week and you say, I'd like to accomplish this today, or I'd like to accomplish that today?
Well, I think my goal is always the same, and it's to leave at least one person more encouraged leaving, after being on that call than before they joined the conversation. And I feel like just as I survey the virtual room all throughout the conversation, I can kind of tell from people's nonverbal communication, their body language. There's oftentimes a lot of smiles, and even more so than that, our actual positivity chat, the conversation of technically is 1 hour, but we will leave the call open for at least a good half hour or longer for those who want to stay on the call. And we've actually here of late been having several individuals stay on. I think the longest we've gone is 45 minutes over. And everybody, we even had one call where everyone that was on the call literally stayed at least a half hour past the hour. And they were all excited. They were wanting to continue to talk, but we all had different things that we needed to do. And so every time I see that, I'm like, yes, we've done our job, because again, our goal and my goal specifically every week is just to encourage at least one person. And I can tell by the way even their demeanor changes over the period of the hour when they're listening in and as they're talking and engaging with the group. And you can hear the excitement and the energy building in their voice as they're sharing and they're going, oh, that's great. And then you can see the conversations in the chat. They just pick up and increase, and people are like, yes, I like that. This is great. So I think that right there tells me that we're doing something right.
Karen, no one wants to talk to me for an hour after we're done. You're wonderful and engaging, and people could talk to you for hours. No one wants to talk to me. Steve, they would talk to for another 45 minutes. Go ahead. You had a thought around that, Steve. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that's great about working with Karen in the positivity chat is her ability to pick up on the people in the meeting. As a guy, I'm kind of clueless. And
amen. Me too.
She'll be noticing, she'll direct message me, Steve, we should invite in, Dimitri, we should invite in Kenyatta. They look like they want to say something, but, they're not getting the break in the conversation to say it. And I really appreciate that about her, because that adds another element, because we don't ever really say we want everybody to talk. People have come for the whole hour and not said a word.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that totally amazes me with some of these people we have in this meeting, because they're content creators. They're very communicative. Yeah. They are people that you would expect to be talking, but they come and listen. And I think that listening impacts the conversation in a way where people feel heard and valued and supported.
And can I piggyback on that right quick?
Yeah, absolutely. You can piggyback. You're the guest. I'm just the host. I'm just facilitating the conversation. Go ahead, Karen.
Well, Steve touched on a very key point about our guests, the people who come to our conversation. As he mentioned, we have some of the top content creators on LinkedIn that join in on this conversation. And what's so amazing is that in the mix of that, we also have people who are just now coming onto LinkedIn. So they don't have a large following, they don't have a lot of connections, and yet they come on and they enter into this conversation as an equal. So it's not that we have somebody who has hundreds of thousands of connections and followers who they're put up on this high perch and given, greater esteem as somebody that maybe only has, a couple hundred connections. No, everybody is treated and viewed as an equal. And in that, I think that's where the power and the encouragement comes, and how you can see every week when these individuals come back and they keep seeing that they're treated as an equal, they begin to kind of blossom. We're seeing all kinds of transformations in some individuals who at the very beginning, they were kind of like quiet, a little bit on the meek side, but as they continue to engage in these conversations and they're seeing that they do have tremendous value, man, they are speaking with greater confidence, and just like you would think they are the big name content creator. So I love that.
That's awesome.
The transformations have been one of the great things about this is, from day one, individuals have come on, and sometimes it may be just a misunderstanding
Mhm.
or a misperception on my part, of Karen's part, towards an individual. But oftentimes in that conversation, you'll pick up things, and it has been amazing to watch some of those individuals grow.
Yes.
And offline, when I talk to some of them, they're like, yeah, I was really hesitant to get in front of a camera, but these conversations have helped me to build greater confidence that, I feel like maybe I can get in front of the camera. So, however we can help people, that's the goal of the
Yes.
chats.
That's awesome. That is so good. My last question I've got for the both of you, Karen, Steve, share a piece of intentional encouragement together with this audience, because you both have done amazing work with the positivity chat. Give the audience your biggest piece of intentional encouragement right now.
Well, I would just say, just remember that you are as valuable and as important as you say that you are. It doesn't matter your role, your position, or your title. You have value within you, and you just have to be willing to stand in that, own it, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And when you do that and you speak with confidence and know that the right people are going to see you for who you are, and that's somebody that's great and powerful, you're going to be able to move mountains in your own space, and you're going to be able to rise above whatever situation that you are facing.
Steve?
I guess I would say to people, whatever you've gone through in life, while it may teach you things, it doesn't define you. And you need to remember, and I constantly preach this to people, that in a sense, I am worthy. If you can hang on to that very fact that I am worthy. And as Christians here, we share that because we know God God first loved us,
Mhm.
and the sacrifice that he made for us can't mean anything other than he considers us worthy.
Yes.
And it's within that truth that we can find strength and confidence to step forward and do things that we might be led to do, or our passions want us to do. And so I encourage people to not doubt themselves, but to tell themselves, I am worthy, I can do it.
That's awesome. This has been so good. Two of the best people that I know are Karen Markle and Steve Sullivan. It has been a thrill to have you guys together on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Karen, tell people where they can find you, and then Steve, tell them where they can find and connect with you as well.
Well, I would just leave it to LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn very easily, and there's some contact information there, but look for me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, look for me on LinkedIn too. And just so people know, Karen and I have been spending a lot of time talking about how to set up a business together. We've got one client today that we coach in a joint coaching venture where one week Karen will talk to her, the other week I'll talk to her, and it's actually been exciting to see how we complement each other in that coaching process.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're looking to further that and build upon that in a way to help more people.
That's awesome. You can connect with Karen, Karen, Markle, Markle, on LinkedIn. Steve Sullivan, SteveSullivan. Find them there. Then they also post links to the positivity chat so that you can be involved in that. Steve, Karen, this has been awesome. Thank you for joining us today on the Intentional Encourager Roundtable podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
My thanks as always to producer Bryce Sexton and technical advisor Matt Means. And the ultimate thanks goes to the Lord Jesus Christ, who provides intentional encouragement every day through His Word. And until next time, remember, everyone, everywhere, at any time, and any place, can be an intentional